This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. It's a freaking Sunday. News Gimp has arrived. They let me out of my, is it a Gimp house? I don't even know. I don't know how the BDSM community works. I know they keep the Gimp somewhere, but I don't know if it's like a special thing, if it has a special designation. They just keep the Gimp in the basement? I don't know. I don't know how it works. Good evening, welcome. I've got no funny stories to tell or anything. I fell in the shower. I'm getting old. I'm turning 40 this year. I fell in the shower. I'm lucky I didn't break something. Go me! I'm getting up, and I fall the fuck back down, just flop, boom! I have a gigantic knot on my arm. It doesn't really read across the video though. My apologies for that. Other than that, pretty uneventful weekend. How'd your guys' weekend go? It's already Sunday again. You gotta go back to work tomorrow. I apologize. Flash, good evening. Here's the thing, is like I used to have lube in the shower. And like I don't anymore. Wasn't even lube. I was just getting up. Old man fell. Sparkles told me it was time for a shower chair. I need a shower chair now. Ain't nothing in that. I don't like that at all. Hold on. I might have to pack a new one. Let me see if I got ones that got some in it already. Maybe. A little bit, little baby hit. That ain't gonna get me high enough for this shit. Battle Possum hit me up before the stream. It's like, what that news be doing? I'm like, I don't even know. I haven't paid attention. Video games and wrestling is all I did yesterday. God, there's none in this one either. I fucking shit. Mitochondria, good evening. I assume that's you. I've never actually verified that. I just assumed. Oh shit! I didn't reset all my drops. We got bombarded there for a second. Here is your meme of the day. Inside of you there are two lone wolves. One has a structured settlement. The other needs cash now. Called J.G. Whitworth. I am not being paid by J.G. Whitworth. That was not a paid ad here on the Troll Patrol. Okay, so Battle Possum and I play Mortal Kombat. And we got to this. I don't even know how I got this started. But like one of us would, go on a tear and then like get shut down and then turn the momentum of the fight and make a comeback. And I was always like, that's the Snickers turning point of the fight. Like I'm a commentator, right? But so I canceled my Spotify. So the only time I ever listen to Spotify anymore is when I'm playing Mortal Kombat with my buddy. I put Spotify on, but unfortunately I have to sit through commercials. And they've played me goddamn 78 Spectrum commercials. Spectrum Internet, blah, 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 blah. YouTube has been hitting me with Spanish Spectrum commercials. So here the last couple of nights, instead of the Snickers turning point of the fight, it's been the Spectrum turning point of the fight. I'm sorry. I don't know if I've told this story on stream. If I have, it's been a while. I always wanted to be a cop when I was a kid. Wanted to be a cop, but looking back on it now, I've realized something. I wasn't playing cop. I would build toy guns with my Legos and shit. I was playing cop TV show. I had a theme song. I had story arcs that would, culminate in right before going to commercial break and shit. Broadcasting is innate in me. It is ever since I was a wee little tyke, I've just understood the world of broadcasting. I have not watched the Ben Shapiro Tom McDonald video yet. I saw the briefest of clips of it on the Majority Report. They played 30 seconds of it maybe on Friday, so I've not seen the whole video. Apparently it has something to do with AI. It's not really Ben Shapiro rapping or some shit. I don't want to be a cop, Flash. The moral of the story was, while I thought I wanted to be a cop when I was a kid, I actually wanted to be a broadcaster. I was doing broadcasting. And that's the way it is even when I'm playing video games. I'm doing break. I get the new weed dealer the other day. And I said something about me doing radio. He's like, "Oh, I hear it in your voice. That makes perfect sense." Man, I wish I could wish we lived in a time more akin to the 70s. I could actually be in a lot of ways, no, not. I don't want to be in the 70s, but the way the radio industry was then. I would love to be just a local jock on, a mid-market radio station. Give me a Cincinnati, give me a Cleveland, why am I picking Ohio? Give me a Nashville or a Memphis, something like that. Denver, I could rock Denver. I could be the voice of a radio station in Denver. So I said mid-market. We're getting kind of we're getting top 20 when we get to Denver. Who gives a shit about Arbitron and Nielsen and all that? You guys didn't come to hear me talk about that shit. You guys came to hear me talk about the news. A school removed the mirrors from their bathroom in order to stop the kids from making TikToks. Woman was stuck in a gondola. A cargo plane crashed in New Hampshire. Remember last week when they played a sporty ball game in the freezing fucking cold? Apparently the Kansas City Chiefs won. That was a thing. Some fans died. Apparently they were on drugs. And they were also in some harsh weather. And they died. Speaking of which, a music producer was shot in LA. Sunday. It's Sunday. It's a holy day, right? So we gotta have some story about a church in Istanbul, not Constantinople. There was an attack on a church during services. We've got video, apparently. God, that's not funny. Why am I laughing about that? Because I'm seeing they might be giants in my head. Oh. It's one of those days where we get word that some soldiers were killed in Jordan, and then I was like, wait a minute, what were our soldiers doing in Jordan? Do we have a conflict going on in Jordan right now? But what the fuck did Jordan do? U.S. has issued travel warnings in preparation for spring break. They felt the weather change the other day. They were like, well, let's talk about spring break now. Hold up, administration. We still got another month of winter. At least we'll see what the groundhog has to say about that here in a couple of days. Young Turks posted this video, says it's their most unbelievable interview with a Trump supporter. I'll bite. Let's watch it. Their most unbelievable interview with a Trump supporter. By the way, we were, was it Vivek? Got punked out by some guys. That was the Good Liars. Love those dudes. We watched that video last week. I think it was last week. Time's dilated. I don't know. Glenn Greenwald, Alex Jones, and Destiny are going to talk to us about whether January the 6th was a coup or not. UAW President Sean Fain going to tell us why he endorsed Joe Biden for re-election. Biden halting natural gas in Texas, possibly as a response, maybe, to the obstinates in Texas, which is going to be a huge chunk of what we're going to be talking about tonight, as Texas is pulling some shit that, if you've read a history book, seems very Jim Crow-ish. Seems very Civil War-ish. Lieutenant Governor of Texas talking about the possibility of a civil war kicking off because of their actions, where right-wingers. I don't know how you can say you support the Constitution, because defying the Supreme Court is about as unconstitutional as you can fucking get. I'm sorry, I'm going to play even more Dan Patrick here in a little bit. Slimy piece of shit he is. I think I'd rather hear from Dan Patrick than Ken Paxton or Greg Abbott, though, because, God, all three of those men make my fucking skin crawl. Now, apparently, the GOP in Texas is ramping up for yet another impeachment of Ken Paxton. We went through this last year. They unfortunately were unable to get the job done. What was it like? Is the beginning of fall, maybe the end of summer? They worked on impeaching the Attorney General of Texas, who was indicted 5 years ago for fraud. How he has served as Attorney General of Texas for 5 years after being indicted for fraud. Explain that one. So we got this motherfucker here, indicted for fraud, the Attorney General, the governor openly defying a Supreme Court order. This right-wing Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Biden administration that Texas needs to allow the Border Patrol to come in and cut the razor wire at the border while the case is being heard. This is while everything is stopped before the Supreme Court hears the actual case. But they're saying you need to let the Border Patrol get in and do their job. Texas saying, nuh-uh. They had until midnight on Friday, and they said, fuck you. They said, fuck you to the feds. And it's disgusting because what they put this razor wire up in order to prevent migrants from coming over. It has resulted in the death of several. I don't know an exact number, but I believe we are in double digits now of migrants who have died because the Texas National Guard is not letting the Biden administration, the Border Patrol, the federal Border Patrol, who actually has control of the border. That is explicit in the Constitution. I cannot stress that enough to you right-wingers. Like, the Constitution is a little vague about some shit, but the one thing that it is absolutely clear about is that the federal government controls the border. And this has even been upheld in other Supreme Court cases because you don't want someone, a migrant coming into the country, to deal with 50 different sovereigns. It's dealing with one federal agency. I don't know where we go on this one. Quesadilla, good evening. Like once again, we are indeed in territory that has only happened in like the closest analogy I can think of is like Alabama blocking the integration of the schools, and Eisenhower had to send the National Guard in. Other than that, like states refusing to return slaves. Northern states would refuse to comply with the federal law to return slaves. Battle Opossum, good evening. Do you want to start off with the Ben Shapiro rap? Is that what you want? I put it at the end. We can get it out of the way. These nuts. Well, good, because we need to be doing that hard news. And the hard news is the standoff at the border. Texas shirking the order to allow Border Patrol to cut razor wire as of midnight on Friday night.
That Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress,
you said you didn't want those fucks on your screen, and then I take them down and put up Ted Cruz. Question marks. Good evening. Which is worse, Tom McDonald or Ted fucking Cruz? Both Canadians. Both are Canadians that are fucking aggravating us actual Americans.
Standing with the Mexican drug cartels. They're standing with the invasion that is targeting our state. We've seen 9.6 million illegal immigrants enter this country since Joe Biden became president, and this is deliberate.
He is cooperating, not just cooperating, but he's literally in partnership with these cartels.
We need to let Greg Abbott do his job, which is to put up the razor wire. I stand with Texas. We've got to secure this border.
Dude, he's like that motherfucker accused Biden of being with the cartels. That was Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, accused Biden of being in league with the cartels. They are scaring the shit out of these dumb fuck right-wingers who don't have two brain cells to rub together to begin with, making them think there's some all-out fucking invasion. It's just, for the millionth time, Libertad, good evening. It is predominantly families, women and children, fleeing violence from their home country, from Honduras, from Guatemala, from Panama, from countries that we might have happened to have had a hand in destabilizing. You hear right-wingers make jokes about throwing people from helicopters all the time. That's Honduras. That's the death squads. Those two things are connected. Nothing happens in a vacuum. One of the reasons why they're fleeing their home country is because 40 fucking years ago, we turned it into a powder keg, and it's gotten worse and worse. They don't want to deal with that reality.
But he's literally in partnership with these cartels.
We need to let Greg Abbott do his job, which is to put up the razor wire. I stand with Texas. We've got to secure this border.
Fueled by powerful beliefs and intensifying rhetoric, a literal standoff has developed on the border.
Literal.
And federal forces against Governor Greg Abbott and Texas troops. At issue, a narrow Supreme Court ruling backing President Biden's authority to take down razor wire deployed by Texas as a deterrent against illegal crossings, specifically at a state-controlled Riverside Park in Eagle Pass. The rub, the Governor Abbott is refusing to allow it, defying the president and invoking our state's right to defend itself against invasion.
And defying the Supreme Court.
An invasion by people we don't know who they are, where they're coming from, or the danger they may pose.
And so, as two heavily armed factions face off awaiting orders, 25 Republican governors issued a joint letter of solidarity with Texas, with some offering to dispatch their own troops to support the Lone Star State.
And it's not a fucking coincidence that you look at the list of states and it's almost a complete overlap of the Venn diagram of southern states in the Civil War. Huh.
A deal to dramatically boost border security in exchange for billions in military aid for Ukraine and Israel is in serious trouble. Panel, that's because former President Trump has signaled to his supporters in Congress he'd rather blow up the bargain and let the chaos continue, presumably.
He says blame him.
Until the November 5th election. With that, let's start our conversation. Charles Blaine, is Donald Trump trying to blow up a border deal?
Yes.
I think he's trying to do whatever it takes to get him over the hump and get him through this primary, which he's going to get through easily, and become president in November. And so whatever outcome needs to happen to get that, I think, is what he's trying to do. But what's interesting about this is they're trying to claim that Texas doesn't have a right to do this. I mean, this is the same framework that cities and states who claim to be sanctuary cities use when they want to justify bringing people in. Well, Abbott is using it to justify keeping people out because it is an invasion. What I find crazy is that Congress is so ineffective that they can't even decouple spending from border if border is such an issue that 25 governors, half of the country, are signing on to a letter saying it's that important, and they can't decouple other issues from that just to address that. That just shows how ineffective it is.
All right, let's go to one of our two.
But is it really important, or is it a political football for them?
Lawyers on the panel. Bill King, what do you make of this? This is crazy that we have a federal-state standoff with armed people down there.
So this is a lot of political theater is what this is. I saw some video last night. I was researching for the show. A few miles up the river, people are crossing like crazy, and Texas law enforcement people are loading them onto buses to be taken to processing centers. So, this is just political theater for a national election that's coming up. I think it's sort of interesting. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've just been in a complete quandary to understand either the policy or the politics behind Biden's, border. I mean, neither one make any sense. And
what's the difference between Trump's policy?
Biden's internal number shows he's down 32% on the border itself, and that suddenly.
I want to know what is so fucking different. He's tried his best to keep as many of Trump's policies in place. Like the fucking courts had to overturn Title 42, if I remember correctly. Had to let it expire. I don't know what the difference is.
panic off. I don't know what took them so long, and that's why you see this sudden pivot. Well, we need to make a deal. I'm going to get tough. I'm going to close the border. I think it's a little late to make that case, but that's what he's going to try to do.
You agree with that?
Well, Bill's brilliant always, but look,
I like you.
Yeah. Here's what's going on here. The Biden compromise they're talking about in Washington, it's not closing the border. They're going to propose to put a numerical limit on the number of people who can come into the country illegally every day, and I think the number was being bandied about is 5,000. Well, that's over 1 million people a year. So the whole system, the bill's a joke. Trump butting in, he just needs to shut up. I mean, seriously, he needs to let Congress and the Republicans in Congress do what they want to do. But the idea it needs to be delayed because it helps them politically, I don't know whether that's true or not. Biden can close the border tomorrow. Instead of having his Border Patrol be an escort service, he can actually have them enforce the law. But he's not doing that. And the motivation...
What law are we not enforcing?
I think that replacement theory idea, it's to bring people in who they think will be captive to the left wing in this country and vote for them because they're losing blue-collar workers.
Chal, no one's against immigration. I think there's a lot of people who are against
bullshit,
uncontrolled, illegal immigration. We're not talking about the people on the other side who are trying to get in here. What's your take as you watch this unfold?
Well, first of all, I think Charles called the election in November that Trump is going to be elected. So let's not forget that. I can't get that out of my head right now, Charles. Get that out of head. Well, here's what I'd say. $11 billion has been spent on Operation Lone Star. To what end? And we're talking about razor wires. And yes, maybe along the border there are people coming in, but let's us not forget those families and children who are desperate to come over for a better life. The Republican strategy, they're very good at words, right? Words like cartel, words like invasion that get into the public consciousness. There has to be...
I like her.
That safe and responsible path to citizenship. There are so many immigrants who want to come over from Central America, from South America, from Mexico to have a better life for their kids and their families. Why don't we figure out that so that we can curb this tide?
All right, tomorrow. I saved you for last.
Well, it's because there's like no reason for it. Republicans don't want a deal, and we're going to get into that. Trump is literally saying, do not let them pass a deal.
I appreciate it. Charity begins at home. Why don't we figure out whether $11 billion can help the families who want to do better, who already have been there, been born here? Why can't we do something about the inner cities in Chicago, LA, DC, Detroit, Houston, Memphis, Florida, everywhere? Why can't we do something about that? That's what they need to be looking at. You said
can we do both
for a better life? Where's the opportunities for those that are here? What COVID did to this country and to this nation, to those who are already marginalized, who still have not gotten back up. We need to do that. I'm telling you, I said it before and I'll say it again. Even though his ass lost in court, now he got to pay that lady $83 million, and he tried to appeal it, he gonna lose. His policy at the border was right.
What?
And not allow and continue to allow anybody and everybody who wants to come in here, because all skin color, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And you.
Why the fuck can you not allow anybody who wants to come in here? Because I thought last time I checked, we believed in fucking freedom. I don't get it. I don't get why people think that it's a good thing to close off your borders and not let people migrate to your country. What? Like, if I want to move to another country, I don't feel like I should be impeded. I should be able to live wherever the fuck I want in the world, because I'm a human being and I have the right to free passage.
You don't know what their true mission is. So yes, they need Abbott. Damn, this is gonna choke me. He right about this. He does need to monitor the Texas border.
This woman needs a titty slap.
Come on now.
How dare she? Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, was on with Maria Bartiromo for drinks this morning.
To America. Joining me right now, live from Texas, is the Lieutenant Governor. Dan Patrick. Governor, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Sure, Maria.
Assess the situation for us in terms of that barbed wire and what you're seeing with the illegals coming across.
So I was down there all day yesterday, first to let our troopers, our DPS troopers, and our soldiers know that we have their back because they have Texas back and America's back. We have fine young men and women down on the border protecting our border. In Shelby Park, let me give you an example. We put up the wire. We put up containers, and guess what? A few months ago, 3,000 were crossing a day, Maria. Today, zero yesterday when I left around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we know what we're doing in Texas works. For the Biden administration.
That's not the same Dan Patrick, is it? I don't think it is. The Dan Patrick from Sports Center. Oh, was this dude a sportscaster? But, like, that's not the Dan Patrick that was on Sports Center. Like, that Dan Patrick's super cool. They're two different people.
And Joe Biden and
I don't know if this Dan Patrick did sports.
The wire, when we're having success, makes no sense to anyone, even the rank and file Border Patrol on the border that we work very well with, Maria. It's just the politicos that he sends in to try to stir the pot. Look, they stood down. They said they're not going to cut the wire, and it's good news for them because they would have needed a lot of wire cutters because we have a whole lot of wire. And if they had snipped it and cut it, we would have replaced it right away. We're going to put wire down the entire border.
Well, that is going to be incredible pictures. There are cameras all over the place, but it will be really incredible pictures to see the Biden administration cut down the wire that you will put in if, in fact, it goes that way. But, you know, John Ratcliffe, who warned us about this 3 months into the Biden administration, says that, look, we didn't have a problem months ago. I can tell you that this was an issue that the Biden administration self-inflicted on this country. Why?
Man, they've got Kellyanne Conway and Ben Carson coming up. What a hopping show. I can't believe I missed this morning.
Because he is wrong-headed on a long list of issues. Okay, we can make a long list of issues. But this border issue is number one because fentanyl is crossing that border and killing more Americans than any other issue between 18 and 40.
And Carrie Lake.
We have women being raped. We have children being put into sex slavery. We have murderers, we have molesters, we have gang members, we have drug dealers, we have carjackers, we have kidnappers, all crossing with these millions of people. And he is wrong on this issue. He doesn't care because here's the agenda, Maria.
As they show a video of a family with little kids getting into a van.
America has to understand their agenda is they don't care if people die if they make their goal. And what is their goal? To put millions of people into this country, one day turn them into citizens, and one day turn them into voters and take over the country. That's their goal, and we all know it.
So,
hey, Dan, I hate to inform you, but we're already the majority. Like, you guys are a minority. Most people don't like Republicans. Just throwing that out there. We don't have to take over the country. We just have to take over the levers of power because you guys aren't popular.
Let me
go ahead. Yeah, how many people would you say that have crossed into America illegally on Joe Biden's watch? I mean, there are numbers 8, 10 million. I want to get your assessment, the lieutenant governor of the state. How many people?
I've been studying this for 15 years. I track it by the year pretty much. And my data matches up much with MIT's data in 2016. We were averaging about 435,000 apprehensions most years. Think about that, per year. And in December, we had 300,000 alone. So under Joe Biden, we know the apprehensions, the people who come across the bridge and turn themselves in, want asylum, even though 90% don't qualify for it, we will be somewhere around 8 million with the gotaways at the end of Joe Biden's term, maybe as many as 10 million.
Wow.
Now, Maria, we don't catch everyone. So if you get 1 out of 2, we have 1,250 miles of border with Mexico. Our border, Texas and Mexico, is further than the distance between Atlanta and Portland, Maine. So there are people who get in that we don't see. So if you get 1 out of every 2, that's going to be 14, 15, 16 million people that have gotten into this country since Joe Biden has become president. That would make them, just alone, if you put them in one area, the 7th largest state It would be the state of illegal immigrants. After California, Texas, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, the state of illegal immigrants.
And we got plenty of room. Come on over, party.
Job and a better life, but that's not our concern. Our concern is protecting Americans and protecting Texans from the criminals that come in, from the drugs that come in. And let me tell you this, Maria, this is a stat that many people have never heard. We've arrested 13,000.
Hey, buddy, if you want to protect your citizens from a criminal, there is one that you serve in government with. His name is Ken Paxton, and he was indicted 5 years ago. Oh, shit, Libertad. Jake told me, like, he messaged me and said he was going down to the border. Motherfucker still messages me.
163 smugglers since we started Operation Lone Star several years ago.
He told me Merry Christmas.
Smugglers are U.S. citizens. The drug cartels work with the gangs to distribute their drugs. They also work with the gangs to give them specific GPS coordinates where to pick up people crossing the border illegally. This year, we passed Senate Bill 4, I believe was the exact number. Senator Pete Flores passed this bill that now in Texas, when we arrest you, you're an American citizen, a minimum...
They're talking about impeaching him again.
But imagine that, 13,000 smugglers, almost all U.S. citizens, 90%, in coordination with the cartels. That's why, Maria, when I say it's an invasion...
The look on Maria's face.
It's a cartel army. You know, the founders never dreamed we'd have a president like this one who would just open the door to everyone. And they said, well, invasion if an army came. Well, we're facing an army.
Yeah, you sure are.
No, we aren't.
They're well armed. They're well coordinated. They're making millions.
They're well armed.
Biden. Don't mess with Texas. We're serious about securing our border, and I'm glad the president stood down on Friday and did not confront us. That would be the wrong thing to do. We don't want a confrontation, and they shouldn't want a confrontation.
Well, follow the law, fucker.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what is this going to turn into a civil war? I mean, you've got the Texas rights versus federal rights, both sides with guns.
The Constitution is clear.
We are right.
You're not.
Our citizens. We have a right to defend this country. And we're just doing the job. This whole idea of Shelby Park, that they would come there, is just ludicrous. Look, these young men and women who serve our National Guard and our DPS, these are the best of the best. Why would he want to send anyone down to confront them? I'm glad they stepped down, but they need to do the job. And the only reason he's paying attention now is because of the election in November. That's the only reason he's paying attention.
Real quick on the Chinese nationals, we've seen up
on the Chinese.
You know, military.
On the Chinese. What are they doing? Could it get any more fear-mongery? They've tried. So here's the thing: is Democrats have tried to be draconian on the border. Democrats aren't good on this issue. They want to capitulate and crack down on the border. They want to give the immigrants titty slaps.
Titty slap!
Come on now.
But the right wing isn't going to let them.
To border policy negotiations in Congress. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson sent this letter to his GOP colleagues Friday, warning legislation coming out of the Democratic-controlled Senate, if reports are to be believed, would be, quote, dead on arrival when it gets to the House. Senate lawmakers have spent weeks negotiating key policy changes at the border. The proposal would also include billions in aid for Ukraine and Israel. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland.
Jesus.
So, Scott, what is the main sticking point here?
This feels so much, Catherine, like a salesman trying to close a deal with a very fickle customer.
Oh, no.
The sticking point remains parole. This administrative ability to let people into the country unilaterally without going through traditional systems. And another sticking point, as it always is, Catherine, is money. Somebody's going to have to pay a lot of money to change some of the policies they're proposing here, to make more restrictive asylum programs, to expand deportation and detention, and potentially to shut off migrant crossings when there's a border spike. All of these things may not sound expensive, but everything can be expensive, and Congress has been completely inept this year in figuring out how to spend money, which
this
is
year
near government shutdowns. But here's the thing, talking with sources tonight, both the Democrats who are in favor of this and the Republicans championing it, and it's a pretty wide political spectrum there, realize they're running out of time. They've got to close this deal. The closer they get, Catherine, to the election, the harder it is to make a sell, with Donald Trump dunking on this plan and his many, many ardent supporters in the House and Senate willing to follow his lead, walking in the other direction.
If Speaker Johnson is correct that this deal is, in his words, dead on arrival when it gets to the House, how can these negotiations be salvaged? What's the way forward?
There'd have to be some coalition we haven't seen yet, a mixture of Democrats and Republicans in both chambers pushing this thing through. And it's so difficult to push things through, no matter how small your margin, when the Speaker of the House doesn't want to put it on the floor. But there's also that other consequence. They have tethered these things together, border security and Ukraine funding. Tens of billions of dollars the president has said is desperately needed and needed now. We brought questions about this to Tim Kaine, is Senator, the Democrat.
Tim Kaine?
Senator, how much danger is Ukraine funding in right now?
I think we're going to get there, Scott, because the votes are there on the floor in both houses. When you know that the votes are there can be procedural questions like, yeah, but we'll only do it if we get a border deal we like, or whatever. But if you know the votes are there, usually you can find a path.
Catherine, let me underscore, though, the coalition that is
still can't believe that dude was almost vice
immigration
president.
Deals. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, the ardent Trump supporter, and the White House. There's a lot of room in between those two sides, a lot of people in between those two sides. So there is potential, but boy, that clock is ticking loud.
Yeah, it sure is. So given immigration is one of the top election issues, how are politics creating, it appears to me, a very narrow path forward?
I think it's not just the presidential election. It's all these congressional primaries, which come up in the spring, and you may have trouble as a Republican escaping from your primary victorious if you go against what Donald Trump has said, if you go along with some Senate compromise if it gets to the House. But there's another date on my calendar. In mid-February is a special election for that congressional seat held by George Santos. Immigration's already
I'm gonna miss him
at level in that campaign. If somebody springs a big victory one way or the other, that could change things as well. If the Democrat prevails, despite immigration being an issue, maybe that's leverage for Democrats. If Republicans can win that seat and hold it and use immigration as a cudgel, boy, that gives Republicans even more leverage and could kill the prospects of any border deal.
So he brought up what Trump said. Let's actually hear what Trump said. You want to? I'm sure it's a doozy. Coming to us from Las Vegas. He is campaigning for the Nevada caucus or primary. I don't remember which one. He's in the primary. It's weird.
The border security deal Biden is gushing out and pushing out is not designed to stop illegal immigration. It's designed to continue the invasion of America while sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and other countries. And Ukraine's an interesting case. People always want to know my feeling. Number one, we're in for 200 billion plus, and the European nations are in for 20 billion. And it's more important for them. And don't you think they should equalize? Nobody asks them. It's like I did with NATO. I said, we're paying for NATO, and we don't get so much out of it. And I hate to tell you this about NATO. If we ever needed their help, let's say we were attacked, I don't believe they'd be there. I don't believe. I know the people. I know them. I can tell you country by country. But I don't believe they'd be there. But I took care of NATO. I said, you got to pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, we're not going to be there to support you. And the following day, the money came rolling into NATO. But the European nations, if you add them up, the economy is about the same size as the
European.
Add them all up. And they are in for about $20 billion, and we're in for $200 billion because we're stupid. All we have to do is say pay. Nobody ever says to them pay. You don't even hear that. I say pay. And they'll pay, too. You have to equal.
You think we're fools?
As just one example of the border bill.
Yeah, Donald Trump knows all about paying. Because that's the thing Trump is famous for, is paying people.
The monstrosity that we're dealing with, 2 million illegals cross the border every single year in the past, and now that number is changing to maybe 8 times that amount. We cannot let this happen to our country. As the leader of our party, There is zero chance I will support this horrible open borders betrayal of America. It's not going to happen. I noticed that, and I'll fight it all the way. I noticed a lot of the senators.
You keep doing a real shit job.
A lot of the senators are trying to say respectfully they're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay. Please blame it on me. Please. Because they were getting ready to pass a very bad bill. And I'll tell you what. A bad bill is, I'd rather have no bill than a bad bill. A bad bill you can't have, and that's what was happening. In the House, as you know, the Speaker, who's, by the way, I think he's going to prove to be a very good Speaker. It's tough when you have a very small majority. Very tough. Mike Johnson, Speaker, he just said it's dead on arrival in the House. It's dead on arrival.
Mike Johnson has a small majority.
No bill, and whatever happens, happens. But this is the single greatest threat to our country right now, is the people pouring into our country because we have no idea who they are. The fact is that if Joe Biden truly wanted to secure the border, he doesn't really need a bill. I didn't need a bill. I did it without a bill. I did it with the current laws. I used Border Patrol. I didn't have a bill. I didn't need lots of different things.
He did indeed have to.
I don't want the people coming in. They say, yes, sir. There won't be any people coming
Ask Congress.
And that's what we did. It's
authority.
not that complicated. But all Biden needs to do is to reimpose every single...
Once again, am I going to have to fact check?
Donald J. Trump, did you ever hear...
Everything a Donald Trump says? That gets a little tiring. Because it's all pretty much lies. They have apparently unveiled their legislation to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. We're going to hear from Congressman Lugar on Fox and Friends.
Let's bring in Congressman August Pfluger, a Republican from Texas. Also
Pfluger.
Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, good morning to you. Your committee did the investigation. Tell us why you've decided to move forward with these articles of impeachment against the DHS Secretary.
Well, thank you for having me, and I take no pleasure in talking about this because what we actually want is just a secure border. But when you look at the egregious nature of what this administration has done under the leadership of Secretary Mayorkas, who took an oath of office, by the way, to protect and defend the Constitution, you're talking over 8 million people illegally in this country, over 300 who matched the terror watch list that we know about, 100,000 deaths from fentanyl. And so our articles of impeachment, by the way, which I think could have been done as early as last year and even before, because we've been talking about this for so long. They're very simple. The articles are very simple. Article 1 says that there's a willful and systemic refusal to follow the law. That's the Immigration and Nationality Act. And Article 2 says that there's a breach of public trust, what you just heard. Those two are very simple, but they factually outline the refusal of Secretary Mayorkas to keep our country safe. And Article 4 of the Constitution very clearly says it is the federal government's responsibility to protect all.
So he's failed to keep our country safe. But then George W. Bush, who presided over 9/11, didn't fail to keep our country. I don't understand. Nothing has happened. A whole bunch of people that apparently you don't like their skin color have come into the country. As I keep pointing out, they're fleeing our policy. But nothing has happened. They are safer overall as citizens. They commit less crimes on average than U.S. citizens. And in terms of the ones that are trying to come here legally and go through the asylum process, they're incredibly safe. Their crime numbers are non-fucking existent. So just I don't know what this shithead is talking about.
All states from an invasion. That's exactly what's going on here. We do have an invasion, and they've refused to keep us safe.
We should have impeached Donald Trump for not keeping us safe from COVID. The logic here, you guys are saying, you can impeach somebody for not keeping us safe. Have you seen our track record?
Congressman, walk us through the timing, because Peter mentioned at the end of his report that Speaker Johnson wants to vote on it soon. Does this have to pass out of a committee, or is it ready for a floor vote? Where do you see this going?
That's right. We will actually, the Homeland Security Committee, get together on Tuesday, and we will mark the articles up. So that means that there could be, probably language change that doesn't really change the two articles that I just mentioned, but talking about the exact ways in which the secretary violated the law and the ways that he misled Congress. We're talking about detention of illegal aliens, the parole of illegal aliens, his mass catch and release scheme. That's going to happen on Tuesday. And then we expect a vote on the House floor, hopefully as early as Wednesday or Thursday. That will be up to the Speaker and the leadership.
When he says catch and release, like, once again, like, these are people that have been processed, have a court date, and are told to show back up, and overwhelmingly do. And usually when they don't show up for their court date, it's usually some sort of misunderstanding. They were bused to another state from Texas kind of deal going on.
Congressman, I'm just looking here. I think we might have some of this we can put up on the screen. I'm not sure, so I'm asking the producers at the same time. Key quotes from the draft of what you guys have put together. And you did lay out the various stages where you say Mayorkas has failed the law, to implement the law as passed by Congress.
I don't know who this woman is, but I hate her. And look at her with her boo-boo face and her fucking like dead fucking stare eyes. Fuck you, woman. I do not like you. You don't tip your waiters. I can already fucking tell. You bitch at employees at retail shops. You probably called the police on more than one minority. Go fuck yourself.
To is a policy.
But hey, it does look like she stands with Palestine. She believes in a free Palestine. She's got the flag on her shirt.
Biden administration embraced and then executed by Mayorkas, but embraced that is in violation of congressional law. And it's some of what you described is up on the screen.
Venus, good evening.
Of the impeachment drafts. Alejandro Mayorkas knowingly made false statements. This is about what he said to Congress. That the border is secure. The border is no less secure than it was previously. That the border is closed and the DHS has operational control of the border. That's pointing lies that you're holding, he told Congress.
No.
That's exactly right. And, it's just so egregious. The numbers are egregious. The impact on our communities, not just Texas. I mean, I'm sitting 2 hours from Eagle Pass right now doing this interview. But it's not just the numbers. It's not just the impact on Texas. It's the impact on every single state. And then his attempt to mislead not just Congress, but the American public.
Goldfish, good evening.
The border, which we all knew from the very first day that they were in office, was false. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a hearing. Secretary Mayorkas was sitting next to Director Wray.
From the very first day they were in office, you knew you were going to wage a propaganda campaign against this administration based on the border and claim there's some sort of invasion and scare the shit out of your idiot-ass followers. Right-wingers are morons, so it's easy to propagandize and fearmonger.
And I asked Director Wray a simple question. I said, are there people who match the terror watch list that you know about who've entered this country that are still
unionized?
Yes. And then I asked Mayorkas, who was sitting
or unionized.
Is it your policy to detain anyone who matches the terror watch list? And he couldn't answer that question in the affirmative. This is why we're going through the impeachment trial, because obviously somebody who matches a terror watch list should immediately be detained, should immediately be deported, or done, something needs to be done with them to protect the American citizens from some sort of terror act. It's that type of behavior that has happened for 3+ years and resulted in almost 9 million people illegally in our country, many of whom have desires to do bad things in this country criminally or on a terror aspect.
Right. We just don't know who they are. But what would you say to somebody who says your fight shouldn't be with Alejandro Mayorkas, it should be with President Biden, and he's just following orders?
Well, it's a great question, and I'll tell you that Jamie Comer and Jim Jordan have that fight with him right now. They're looking at what the president has done, and that case is actually much bigger than just protecting the border. So right now our focus has to be on a secretary who has taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and I guarantee you that Chairman Comer and Chairman Jordan are looking at the president in many other aspects of his failure to keep our country safe.
Here's one more quote from the impeachment articles. Again, these are brand new. We just received them here at Fox and Friends. It says this. Throughout his tenure as Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro N. Mayorkas has repeatedly violated laws enacted by Congress regarding immigration and border security.
What laws?
In large part because of his unlawful conduct, millions of aliens have illegally entered the United States on an annual basis, with many unlawfully remaining in the United States. His refusal to obey the law is not only an offense against the separation of powers in the Constitution of the United States, it also threatens our national security. You've reiterated a lot of that as well. You know, we've heard Democrats speak
What law has he not enforced?
A lot of it's because an election year is coming. Do you think any Democrats will vote for this?
Dude, three of you. You've got three brains sitting on that couch. Not a one of you can come up with the what law has he not enforced? That seems to be like the logical follow-up to what you just read, Kilmeade.
Impeachment, or do you think this will be almost all Republicans?
That's a great question, and I sure hope they do. I hope that there are Democrats from Texas, especially those that are on the border.
They're head meats.
Oh, the damage that's being done to our
Too much credit, indeed.
Courage to stand up. This is not just a policy fight. This is an actual refusal to enforce the laws that are already on the books. These Democrats know that. I really hope that they have the courage to do the right thing, because it has hurt. It's hurt every American, not just Republicans. This has hurt Democrats too. That is why you see many Democrats in South Texas and along the border region switching from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party, because they don't trust this administration and they don't trust Alejandro Mayorkas.
All right, Congressman August Pfluger of Texas, thanks so much.
Pfluger!
As these articles of impeachment are released.
Pfluger sounds like something you would hack up. Hacked up a Pfluger. What's that asshole down in Texas? Cuellar. You're talking about fucking Democrats like Cuellar. You weren't even really Democrats to begin with. That's the kind of Democrat that might be switching to the Republican Party, sir. You can have them. Take them. What's this fuck again? We heard from him the first time earlier tonight, and we get him again a second time tonight. Texas natural gas exports have been halted by the Biden administration.
Welcome back. As if President Biden's standing in the Lone Star State wasn't battered enough by his border policy, the commander-in-chief added some insult to...
Okay, you guys know my obsession with names. This guy is Greg Groogan. Greg Groogan. Groogan Fox 26. Greg Groogan. The Groog. I swear to that sounds like a Spider-Man villain or some shit. Greg Groogan. Your standing with me, sir, has been battered just by me finding out what your name is.
Economic injury this week by freezing the export of liquefied natural gas. Just in case you weren't aware, Texas is the nation's top producer of natural gas, a growing quantity of which is exported to Europe and elsewhere in the form of LNG. Panel, President Biden's Department of Energy wants to conduct an analysis of the impact of these shipments, environmental and otherwise. Question, is this a coincidence, or could the president be sending Greg Abbott a message? Bill, I know you've looked at this.
Oh, it's the same panel.
I don't think it's to do with Abbott, but look, this is the dumbest public policy I've ever heard of in my life.
I think I hate every single person on this panel. I think they're all sleazy as shit.
You know, if you don't export LNG to these countries, what do you think they're going to burn to
He looks
create
like Richard
electricity?
Dawkins.
They're going to burn coal, which is 10 times worse than natural gas. The United States is one of the few countries that's reducing its carbon emissions on a per capita basis right now. And the way we've done it is by closing coal plants and instead using natural gas to generate electricity.
Close your coal pants, guys.
The whole world, we've got a huge surplus of the United States. It's nuts not to do it. But it's also politically stupid. I mean, we just get a poll that shows that Gutierrez and Allred with a couple of points of Ted Cruz. They've got to be pulling their hair out this morning. Not only is Biden like shooting him in the back on his border policy, now he puts another bullet in.
Oh yeah, the cameraman's probably. And
this is.
I'm sorry, I take that back. This lady was cool. She's the smartest one on the panel.
It's dumb politically, it's dumb from a policy standpoint.
Absolutely.
Any thoughts here, Chow?
Well, I don't think that politically, but I actually think this strategy of halting and taking a look and just, by the way, they're exporting LNG at record rates this year. There were 7 plants in Texas and Louisiana. This is just a way to look and see if the new projects are within the confines of national security, climate change. I do believe that Biden is looking at his younger base, and the younger base is saying, look, we are serious about climate change. As a mother with young children who are going to have to grow up in this world, it is something we think about. We don't think about it day to day because it's, 10, 20 years down the line. But look where we are now. We're 10, 20 years down the line talking about climate change 2 decades ago. So yes, this is at least a judicious response to.
It's not 10, 20 years down the line. Where I'm sitting, we set a record high just 3 days, 4 days after we set a record low. It was colder here than it was in the Arctic at one point in time. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's summertime outside. In just a few days. That happened here in January. It's absurd.
Just reviewing things. We're not halting LNG exports.
Okay, well, you can almost hear Trump on the campaign trail.
Yeah, certainly. Insurance companies.
Okay, listen. This is.
We'll tell you it's happening now.
You up. Listen, I listen, but look, you have got to not stop this. Bill is 100% right. If they're not doing, when I went to Oman, they were talking about LNG in 2014, 10 years ago, about this. If you don't do this, it is going to absolutely increase fossil fuel burning and coal and everything else. This is going to hurt the planet, not help the planet. This pause, and let me be clear, it's not all LNG. This is new contracts only. But to halt.
Yes, Flash. My God, that was the thing that just stunned me. We're like, the United States is in a different growing climate than it was 40 years ago. It's wild. Like, if farmers will tell you that climate change is happening, the Navy will tell you that climate change is happening. NASA will tell you that climate change is happening. Insurance companies will tell you that climate change is happening. But there's still idiot-ass right-wingers out there that are acting like what's going on is normal. I don't know how people older than me aren't freaking the fuck out. Because I can understand if you're 30 or under, you didn't see the more stable climate that we had. It was in my lifetime. That like clockwork. would get cold. The end of August, beginning of September. Now I was in a like right on the Mason-Dixon line. Give you an example of the kind of climate I was at. We would spring and start getting warm like clockwork in March. We got 2 weeks out of school for snow every fucking year. Wasn't the exact same time, but it was usually somewhere between the middle of January and the beginning of February. We would be out for 2 weeks. Like clockwork every fucking year. There wasn't none of this shit bouncing back and forth. It snowed and then was summertime 3 days later. That never happened. That wasn't a thing. In my lifetime, I've seen it. I saw it. God damn. What do you guys think about the idea of a general strike? You for it or you against it? Because I wonder, here's the thing, is Shawn Fain, the president of the UAW, brought up the concept of a general strike in, I believe it was 2028. Brought up the concept, and that's like, Shawn Fain pushing for it is who you have to push for it. You have to have some organization that has a network. It may very well happen. Fain is trying to line up the new contract negotiations for 2028. And also like he moved it to May Day. He wants the contracts to end on May 1st. If anybody can do it, it's the president of the UAW, and 4 fucking years out, at a time when multiple contracts are coming up for different sectors of the auto industry, and it'd be a great time to show solidarity. He listed the reasons why he moved it back to May Day. Like a much better time to strike. The month of May is a May through June, much better time to strike than October, when the weather is almost guaranteed to be dreary. So I think we could build momentum to it, and I'm all for it. I wonder if he brings it up as he was on Face the Nation this morning to talk about his endorsement of Biden.
Auto Workers Union represents about 400,000 members and last week officially endorsed President Biden's re-election. For more, we're joined by its president, Shawn Fain. Welcome back to the program. What does the president need to do to win Michigan? And
I don't really like the suit and tie look. I really wish he was wearing an Eat the Rich shirt.
Not lose it like in 2016.
I think he has to keep doing what he's been doing all along. I mean, look, we've said this from the outset of my presidency that our endorsements are going to be earned. And we were clear about that. And when you look at these two candidates, it's very clear the difference between both of them. One of them, President Biden, has always bet on the American worker and stood with the American worker, and he proved that during this presidency. He stood up with us for the first time in U.S. history. We had a sitting president join striking workers on a picket line. He saved the community. He worked with us. Belvedere, Illinois, that plant was closed. The community was written off for dead. President Biden came into the table with us and worked with us to save that community and bring back not just Belvedere, but a second plant.
Yeah. Mr. Fain, I'm going to take a quick break because I want to talk to you more without interruption about what's happening in your industry. And what's
we just got here.
We have more questions in a moment. Stay with us. We return to our conversation with the president of the UAW, Shawn Fain. Sir, back in 2016, your former UAW president said an estimated 28% of members voted for Donald Trump. Do you expect a similar breakdown this election?
I think it'll be less. I truly believe we're going to do the same thing we did during our contract campaign, during our strike. You know, when we said endorsements will be earned, we meant it. And we're going to deal with facts and truth. And I believe the overwhelming majority of UAW members and working class people, when the facts and the truth are put in front of them, will support Joe Biden for president. That's why we made this decision. You know, look, when you look at these two candidates, you know, Joe Biden has a history of serving others and serving the working class and fighting for the working class, standing with the working class. Donald Trump has a history of serving himself and standing for the billionaire class, and that's contrary to everything that working class people stand for. When you look at the issues during our contract campaign, retirement security, better wages, health care, wanting our time back, wanting our lives back, that's what matters. That's why 75% of the American public stood with the UAW in our fight, and I believe that's why a huge majority of our members and working class people will side with President Joe Biden in the upcoming election.
Well, it used to be people thought of unions as very much tied to the Democratic Party, but we saw the Teamsters Union President Sean O'Brien meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago earlier this month. He's having a roundtable with him this week. I know President Biden's also been invited as well. Do you anticipate that this other union will go a different direction and choose Mr. Trump?
I can't fathom any union would support Donald Trump for president. Let's be real and let's look at facts. You know, Donald Trump says it best. Look at both their careers. Donald Trump, in his own words, when he had his reality TV show, The Apprentice, and when he was president, when he was in the White House, he had two favorite words: "You're fired." And, you know, he cycled through White House staff like toilet paper. And, you know, when he was in 2008, we were in a recession. Donald Trump blamed the workers for what was wrong with the Big Three. Joe Biden bet on the American worker. You go to 2015, Donald Trump talked about doing a rotation of our good paying jobs in the Midwest somewhere where they pay less, driving a race to the bottom, wanting us to beg for our jobs back at lower pay. You know, he didn't support when Lordstown Assembly, when he was president, when Lordstown Assembly plant was slated for closure, he told people don't sell your houses. What did he do? Nothing. When GM went on strike in 2019, what did he do to support the striking workers? What did he say? Not a word. You know, Joe Biden in 2008, he stood with the UAW. He stood with working class people in that recession, and they gave us a pathway forward. You know, when he's been president, he stood with us for the first time in history. A U.S. sitting president stood on the picket line with us. Yeah. And he helped save a community, not sit back and do nothing while a community was destroyed.
DJ Dub.
Well, you, I know, have had a lot of frustrations with this transition to electric vehicles. Ford's CEO has said they will require 40% less labor to produce cars than combustion vehicles. Is it difficult to convince your members that President Biden's push to go electric won't ultimately put them out of a job?
Look, our union has a history going back. I saw a statement 54 years ago in 1970. UAW President Leonard Woodcock was talking about we needed to get away from the internal combustible engine because it's poisoning the environment. Look, the UAW has always been at the forefront of environmental issues and of working class issues. The biggest thing to us is no matter which way we go in this, we're going to have security for our members and for the working class people. It has to be a just transition. That's what we've stood for. We were able to bargain, thanks again to help from the White House and from Secretary of Labor Julie Su. We were able to bargain a contract where we put this work under our master agreements, under our standards, instead of driving a race to the bottom, which is where it was when we found it. So we're not afraid of where we're headed, no matter where this industry goes. Naturally, there's work that has to be done with the infrastructure and things like that. But no matter where this heads, I know one presidential candidate that will be behind us, and that's Joe Biden, and I know another one that could care less about it, and that's Donald Trump.
Well, you got to get voters excited to actually show up and vote in the first place. I know Ford is headquartered out in Dearborn, Michigan. There are a lot of Arab American and Muslim Americans very upset about what's happening in Gaza. You have called for a ceasefire. Joe Biden has not. Is this going to be difficult? Are they underestimating in Washington how painful this is for people in Michigan?
Look, we've been very clear about our position. The UAW has a history of standing up for peace. We've called for a ceasefire, and we're going to continue to pressure and talk with the Biden administration about this issue. I believe they'll...
You know what? That's probably one of the reasons why they came out and went ahead and endorsed Joe Biden. Because the longer this goes on, the harder it is for them to endorse Joe Biden. especially following the ruling at the International Court that Israel is indeed committing a genocide.
They'll do the right thing. And, I mean, let's be real here. The other candidate, we know where he stands on this issue, and we know what he did with the embassy and stuff when he was president. So, again, there's two very stark contrasts between these two candidates, and we're going to continue to push the Biden administration to do the right thing.
Sir, thank you for your time today.
Shawn Fain, UAW president, did not mention general strike, but once again, he has been saying it, and that gets me very excited. Shooting for 2028 to actually pull a general strike off. That's the kind of time you would need to organize it. That's realistic. Oh, I thought they had Alex Jones, Destiny, and Glenn Greenwald on. They don't. It's Brianna and Robbie talking about Alex Jones, Glenn Greenwald, and Destiny. We'll watch the first little bit of it. We're not gonna watch this whole fucking thing.
Friend of the show, Glenn Greenwald, recently joined a panel of other political commentators, including Destiny, Alex Jones, and the Krasenstein brothers, to discuss whether or not Trump's actions on January 6th rose to the level of a coup.
Yeah, we ain't listening to the
Greenwald took the position that January 6th was not a coup. Here he is justifying that case.
If you look at how other coups are perpetrated, and I think a lot of this is that if you're an American and you have this very soft history, you don't know what a coup is, you think that like what CNN tells you a coup is a coup. Usually the way coups work is the leader of the country or whoever is in charge of the military orders the military to seize control of the levers of power. Trump was the commander-in-chief on January 6th. The military was duty-bound to obey his orders. They had a right to disobey if they were illegal, but...
We know that's what happened. Like, if it had been someone other than Mark Milley in that position. We know that, Glenn Greenwald. You fucking idiot.
If this were a coup, why didn't Trump order the military to seize control of the power and turn over the election process to him? Why
he wanted to!
That formed the law enforcement part of the military and the executive branch that serve under his command to do that as well. That's what happens in a coup. That didn't happen here because Trump wasn't trying to perpetrate a coup.
But it did indeed happen. There were multiple plots where they wanted to declare martial law, seize voting machines. They wanted to. Glenn, you fucking dipshit.
Later in the panel, Greenwald got into an argument with with liberal streamer Destiny. Let's take a look.
You want to talk about applying the same standard? Would you have been okay in the year 2000 if Gore refused to certify the vote because he didn't like what was happening in Florida?
A lot of Democrats did want them to do that.
Can you answer that question? Glenn, answer the question.
Yeah, and I would have actually. Yes, a lot of Democrats were angry about that.
I'm not asking if a lot of I'm asking you would be okay personally if he refused to certify the vote.
I think there were two.
You won't answer the question. In 2016, would you have been okay if Biden?
Because if you really believe that an election is stolen, as the Democrats claim they did, then it is kind of odd to say we're just going to concede that and allow George Bush to march into power, even though we believe.
Because there's a way you go about this. You challenge it in the courts don't work out. You accept it. The Democrats literally did it to preserve democracy. They said that at the fucking time, that they believed in the process and the institutions, and they didn't want to. I don't remember the exact language. Subvert the process or whatever it was. That's a thing that happened. Glenn, he has to know this. He has to know this. He's smarter than this.
That he actually stole the election.
Yes,
that is kind of an odd way to go about it.
It's not all that all. We live in a democracy.
Ed and Brian Krasinski
I hate Robbie.
to deflect comparisons between the Black Lives Matter riots and the attack on the Capitol. Let's watch.
I don't think that Black Lives Matter was an insurrection. I do think 1992 riots in LA was an insurrection. George Herbert Walker Bush.
What matter black? That made it not an insurrection. What did it lack?
So it was a protest, and the violence was when the police clashed with the protesters. The violence was not against the government.
Why does anyone listen to that shithead? Is it a twin brother? Are they twins? I don't even. Are they identical? Are they both shitheads? I assume they're both shitheads. Yeah, oh yeah, you're talking about the Brooks Brothers riots in Florida. It's the same people. But I was going to say that a lot of the same people that were causing violence in 2020 were the same people who were Trump supporters on January 6th. I do not know how the LA riots would qualify. It is the Krasenstein dude, so like I don't know what his deal is. This is a Young Turks video. I don't play the Young Turks on here very often. Usually it's so I can bitch about Chank. Not what we're doing this time. This was labeled the most unbelievable interview TYT has ever done with a Trump supporter. Already we're starting off like this is Jake Harlow looking motherfucker over here.
I think they should bring public hangings back and hang people like Joe Biden. So I think they should give every American an assault rifle and a handgun inside of their home. Just in case a home invader or a child predator comes in their home, then they can shoot them right in the forehead like it was intended. I truly think he's a child predator, honestly, after some of the things that I've seen on TV. Not even like videos on Facebook. I mean, like on live TV while I'm watching him speak, the things that I've seen and heard him say, especially when children are on TV, is just unbelievable. I can't believe we have not.
I tell this, I'm in political groups. I tell this to the idiot ass right wingers in those political groups. Stop getting your information from internet grifters, and nothing you see on the internet is real. Every video you see on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram is staged, choreographed to some extent. You are dumb. You don't have the proper media literacy to be able to digest this information.
Not hung him from our light posts or something.
Right, cool. I think the fourth time you say child predator during an interview,
Francesca!
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But Michael Schur, you're here with us. You're still there. Thank you for being here. That's a pretty scary thing. And you heard some from other kind of like violent and sort of very MAGA supporters, and yet you said recently that they were actually interpersonally very chill with you. They were like, "Hey, come by my house. I'll put the roast on."
Yeah, some of them have actually invited me to their homes. One of the people last night gave me a big hug afterwards. Generally, they are pleasant people with very, very sort of far out ways of looking at what's wrong with the country or what's right with the country. I think that, you know, the guy last night, the guy who was saying those things, you do run into some of these people who are really, you know, saying things that are not representative of the whole. However, they're perfectly accepted by the whole. Yeah. It is a community of people that come out and are together, and many of them reference the fact that just being together is part of the reason they're there. And it's why I asked some of them if this is a little bit of a cult, right? With a cult leader.
It's a cult.
And a lot of sort of similarities between the way that they forgive that cult leader as well as unify behind him. I'm not expert enough to say what a cult is or isn't, but it has a lot of the markings of that. And a lot of these people have these very extreme views.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know a man who is an expert enough to be able to say it, and I do believe he would say it's a cult.
Absolutely. If it walks like a duck, etc. We just heard from Marjorie Greene, very upset that Nikki Haley would even get on the board, as we were saying, even come within, I guess now 11,000 votes, 46.
And that's all we get. That's all I wanted. I thought it was going to be 10 minutes of this dude talking. It is not. I was clickbaited by TYT, and that's why I don't play their videos ever. Fuck you, TYT. Fuck you. You are a horrible organization unless you want me to come work for you, because then, like, I think you do a really good job and our values align. Other than that, fuck you. I'm horrible. I have no principles, do I? Do it! Do it, Flash! That's amazing! I've told Media Winch and producer Dave that we should sell right-wing merch. Like, we should have a site and, like, you know, pull it together, and all the money that we make, we use it to fund our streams. Well, I mean, like, if TYT wants to pay me, I won't be better than that. Just throwing it Chank. I've had a lot of mean things to say about you, but, like, you can be my daddy if you want. You want to pay me. You want to give me some of those millions you got over there. We can talk. The State Department has issued travel alerts on the not on the eve, on the brink of spring break.
Why it may not always be fun in the sun on vacation.
On the precipice, on the fuck. What's the word I want?
Say it ain't so. The U.S. issuing travel advisories for a number of popular destinations during spring break season. And ABC's Melissa Adon has more on this story. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning, Gio. Look, while many of us are in the thick of winter, spring break and warm tropical vacations are definitely already top of mind. But we do have some key tips on how to plan for a trip and stay safe amid the U.S. State Department's new warning to those traveling to the Bahamas.
As millions of Americans are looking ahead to their spring or summer vacations, some popular destinations are now the focus of serious warnings. A brand new State Department security alert is now in place for the Bahamas. Officials issuing a level 2 warning, urging increased caution after reports of at least 18 murders this month alone to start off the new year.
Crime has actually always been an issue in these places because they have inadequate law enforcement, they have gangs, they have all sorts of issues in these jurisdictions.
Oh, don't tell me Ben's a Zionist.
But the State Department is warning that Nassau's gang crime can also happen in areas frequented by tourists.
I like Ben an awful lot.
The only popular beach destination with travel alerts. Jamaica is at a level 3 advisory for Americans to reconsider travel, while U.S. tourists heading to Turks and Caicos and the Dominican Republic are at a level 2 advisory and are being encouraged to exercise increased caution. This also follows concerns in Mexico after a gang-related shootout in 2021 took place on the beach near resorts in Cancun. 2 American tourists injured after being caught in the crossfire. The U.S. Embassy suggesting travelers keep a low profile, be aware of your surroundings, do not physically resist any robbery attempt, and have a personal security plan. Travel expert Scott Keyes says planning ahead is crucial.
You can register with the State Department so that they know you're in the country in case, for instance, there's a local, some sort of natural disaster or other tragedy.
The State Department also warning about unregulated water sports, saying how every year people die or suffer injuries due to improper use of poorly maintained jet skis or watercrafts.
The best way to be arranging activities, tours, things like that is to do it through your hotel, do it through your resort, do it through the person that you're staying with.
Now, the Office of the Prime Minister of the Bahamas says they are implementing several measures amid the recent surge of violence. But ultimately, guys, tourism is just so vital to so many of these Caribbean countries. Guys. Yeah.
Seinfeld. Okay, so Seinfeld is one of my favorite shows of all time. But I'm not a Jerry Seinfeld fan, and I went and saw it not long after the show ended. I went and saw Jerry Seinfeld live, and he wasn't that good. He wasn't funny at all. But then Curb Your Enthusiasm came on, and I realized, oh, it's not Jerry Seinfeld who I'm a fan of. It's not Jerry Seinfeld that makes Seinfeld good. It's Larry David. Now, Larry David also very, very Jewish. However, he shirks his Jewishness to get him some Muslim poontang in Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I would assume he's on the side of Free Palestine. I don't know that to be a fact. But like there's a whole thing about him going to an Arabic chicken place and all of his Jewish friends getting mad at him. And then he ends up, having a relationship with the Jewish woman, or I mean, not the Jew, with the Arabic woman. And it's like she's making him say all this like horrible shit, calling him like the Jew man and stuff in bed. You dirty Jew man. So like, I feel like Larry David's affinity for his Jewishness wouldn't blind his humanitarian nature. I would hope. But that's the man I actually look up to. Jerry Seinfeld, not so much. That stupid picture of him holding the was it an AK, AR? Well, I guess since we got to bring it up here, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, hits out at the families of hostages, saying they are helping Hamas. I'm flabbergasted. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hits out at hostages' families for helping Hamas. The guy who has actually helped Hamas, PM Benjamin Netanyahu, criticized protests by the families of hostages in Gaza. He said the protests were helping harden Hamas's demands. Hamas took around 240 hostages during its October 7th attacks. Speaking at a Tel Aviv press conference on Saturday night, Netanyahu criticized the hostage families' protests. I understand that it is impossible to control one's emotions, but the hostages protest movement doesn't help and only hardens Hamas's demands and delays the results that we all want. The hostages' families hit back in a statement per the Jerusalem Post. It said that the Prime Minister should remember that he is an elected official whose job it is to correct the mistakes. A reference to the security failings on October 7th and the terror attacks on Israel by Hamas, not to scold those whose family members were kidnapped. Netanyahu added that the goal of his government was to eliminate Hamas, and the war would not end until that mission was completed. There are people among us who doubt our capabilities, but they are a minority. He added, per a report, according to a Turkish state news outlet. He also said that the investigations into Hamas's October 7th attacks should be opened after the end of the war, not during its peak. Jonathan Pollard, a former U.S. Navy intelligence analyst who was convicted of spying for Israel, previously said the families of those taken captive in Gaza should have been silenced. When Israel declared war, the first thing that the government should have done was declare a state of national emergency and told all of the hostages, "You will keep your mouth shut or we will shut them for you." That means imprisoning to silence certain members of the hostage families, then so be it. We're in a state of war. This is fucking scary. And yet another escalation in tensions in the Middle East. Several U.S. troops were killed, 25 hurt after a blast in Jordan.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Lexi Petrovich. We are following some breaking news out of the Middle East right now, and it is some very sad news. 3 U.S. service members have been killed and 25 others injured in a drone attack that happened in Jordan. Let's pull up a couple of these statements that are coming in right now. First, with Fox's Trey Yingst saying that 3 U.S. service members have been killed, 25 others injured, and also showing how much things have escalated in the Middle East. And this is an example of just that. We're also hearing from President Biden, who just released a statement confirming this news. And here is what he had to say. Today, America's heart is heavy. Last night, 3 U.S. service members were killed and many wounded during an unmanned aerial drone attack on our forces stationed in northeast Jordan near the Syria border. While we're still gathering the facts of this attack, we know it was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. Jill and I join the families and friends of our fallen and Americans across the country in grieving the loss of these warriors in this despicable and wholly unjust attack. These service members embody the very best of our nation, unwavering in their bravery, unflinching in their duty, unbending in their commitment to
duty,
risking their own safety for the safety of their fellow Americans and our allies and partners with whom we stand in the fight against terrorism. It's a fight we will not seize. The 3 American service
I thought we were going to get more details. I could have read this to you.
Service members who were lost were patriots in the highest sense, and their ultimate sacrifice will never be forgotten by our nation. Together, we will carry and keep the sacred obligation we bear to their families. We will strive to be worthy of their honor and valor. We will continue and carry on their commitment to fight terrorism, and have no doubt we will hold all of those responsible to account at a time and a manner of our choosing. So we are working to get more information here, but President Biden has...
This happened...
News, the U.S. Central Command as well.
The news broke 5-6 hours ago.
Service were killed and 25 others injured in an attack in Jordan near the Syria border. We are working to get more information here. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated on this tragic breaking news out of the Middle East. In the meantime, we want to continue on here with more of today's top stories and headlines. Live picture here at the White House. President Biden, as he just released that statement.
This is...
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. Continuing with those top stories and headlines of the day, this one takes us out to the Red Sea. According to the Associated Press, the crew aboard a Marshall Islands flag tanker hit by a missile launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels extinguished an hours-long fire aboard the stricken vessel Saturday, sparked by the strike. The attack on the Marlin Luanda further complicating the Red Sea crisis caused by the Iranian-backed rebels' attacks over Israel's war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The tanker carried a flammable oil, drawing Moscow further into a conflict that so far it had blamed on the U.S. Joining us this morning to further explain is senior...
Yep. This is gonna get messy, isn't it? I'm glad they were able to put out the fire on the U.S. Marlin Wayans. It is Sunday, so we do need some church in here on this show. Probably should have hit no, Snicks, no. You did not get here for the bullshit just yet. We're almost to the bullshit. This is probably like the last really bad. Well, I mean, like, there's still some death going on. But we're getting into the entertainment section with the next story. But we gotta do church services first. Church services. We're going to Istanbul, where a gunman killed one person during morning mass.
One person's been killed and several injured in an attack by masked gunmen on a Catholic church. The shooting happened at the Church of Santa Maria during Sunday morning.
Did I hit the content warning? I think there is a video with this.
Mass at around 11:40 local time. This is the moment the masked gunmen were on their way to the church. Turkey's interior ministers condemned the vile attack and said that investigations begun. Police are still searching for the suspects. Our chief international correspondent,
they're just sauntering in
from the Church of Santa Maria.
There's a real sense of shock here in the community about what has happened. Turkey's interior minister has just left. He made a visit to the church behind me, offered his condolences to the congregation and to the priest. As he was leaving, he said that those who were trying to destroy the unity that exists between different religions in Turkey would not succeed. Now, local officials here have been stressing to us that this is an area where Christians and Muslims had lived together in harmony. One local official who we met this morning was so distressed he was close to tears and could hardly speak. CCTV footage has emerged which appears to show the moment of the attack. Now, it is very chilling. Two gunmen who are masked walk into the back of the church. They appear to be following a man in black. The congregation are already on their feet. They're facing the altar. They become aware of the shooting behind them. They start to duck and try to hide. But this appeared very much to be a targeted killing. The gunmen went directly for this one man. They shot him, and once that happened, they moved quite calmly towards the back of the church and left. Now, there is a lot of police presence here still in the area. We've been hearing police helicopters, and the search for the attackers is ongoing. There has been no claim of responsibility for this attack. We don't know what the motive may be. Attacks like this on Turkey's Christian minority are rare. They have happened in the past, but they are a rare occurrence.
So, Ola, as you're saying that,
I don't know that church had anything to do with this. Given the facts that we have, it just kind of seems like dude owed somebody money. And he got. And it just so happened to be in a church. I don't know that this was targeted.
there, police continue to search for the suspects. Do we know any more about the scale of that police operation?
Well, we know there's a heavy security presence here. The streets around by the church are closed off, although I have to say that on the main road nearby, traffic is moving freely. We have had some information provided by a relative of the dead man. He told Turkish media that the victim was 52 years old and he was single, and he also said that he was planning to become a member of the Christian faith. He was planning to be baptized, but that hadn't actually happened yet. Beyond that, we don't have information.
Okay, that could have played into it, because, like, isn't converting like a sin or some shit? He was part of, like, some weird religious sect.
Much more information about the victim himself or about the attackers, but I should say that at the end of last year, the authorities here in Turkey arrested 29 people who they said were connected with the so-called Islamic State, and they said that these people had been planning to carry out attacks on places of worship here in Istanbul for both Christians and Jews. But as I say, at this stage we have no information about whether or not this attack is connected with any particular group.
Our senior international correspondent, Ola Guerin.
Looks like a little deer. She's got a deer face. Like a little doe running in front of my car. I don't know why I thought that. I'm a weirdo. Wouldn't recognize her if I saw her out, though. Let's bring it back to... See, I would like to transition from this into the Britney story, because they're both musically related, but I feel like I need to go in order of the severity of the story. So I feel like we gotta do the deaths first. We're going to LA, where a music producer was shot and killed.
Yeah, and I just got off the...
I've lived through this one. I'm Team West Coast.
These people don't want to go on camera, but they do confirm what police say. The victim is William J. Edwards III. He works in the music industry, had a recording studio, small one in Hollywood, and his Instagram says he works with artists like Little Cobain, O.J. Marco, Travis Scott. He was here in the morning in his car with his headphones on. And here's what people say they heard and saw. Watch.
He wasn't moving, and I was just like, what is that?
What she saw on her way to work inside this dark vehicle parked off 29th Street.
I saw a guy dead in his black car.
It was the body of 46-year-old William Edwards III, shot to death shortly after 10 in the morning while sitting in his vehicle on 29th and Ocean Park. Santa Monica police saying they have arrested a suspect, a 27-year-old homeless woman identified as Kayla Denise Mackey.
Everyone was freaking out, basically. Everyone walking past going, damn, not in our beach town. Like, we don't want this happening.
Especially with publicity surrounding crimes involving suspects.
Wait, what was that accent? Was he Australian? Also, he had a Leslie Knope hat on from Parks and Rec.
Our beach town. Like, we don't want this happening.
Especially with publicity surrounding crimes involving suspects described as homeless. From a Santa Monica council member attacked while walking on the 3rd Street Promenade last July to the arrest in November of 24-year-old Adrian Jose Dugas for allegedly carjacking a group of people on one of the city's parking lots. The motive for this shooting remains under investigation. The murder of a man sitting in his vehicle around 10 in the morning is troubling even with an arrest.
Been here over a decade.
So you've seen...
Yeah, more and more issues, right? Over in recent times, for sure.
Does it worry you more than it normally would?
Yes, definitely.
Really lovely around here. It's been beautiful. Like,
crime is down.
Way to start your day, see a dead body. If this was just about an argument you had, somebody's dead now.
William's family saying they don't want to talk to media right now, but they do confirm he is the father of 2 young sons. Again, this whole thing's still under investigation. Anyone with any information is asked to call Santa Monica Police. I'm Christina Gonzalez, back to you guys in the studio.
More incidents are not happening, ma'am. Crime is down. Crime is down historically from its record highs in the late 80s, especially in California. Crime is down from the slight spike that we saw over 2020 and 2021. Certain crimes are up, but most crime is down across the board. Safest time to be alive ever. It's actually an effect of the media that you consume. One, fear-mongering. It's keeps you watching. Like, if you tune into the news to hear the bad shit, right? People always complain about the news doesn't, well, they do good news stories. Well, like, you don't watch that shit. You won't watch the fucking gore. You want to see the fucked up shit that happens. That's literally what my stream is based on. There's more and more outlets giving you more and more content like that, so it seems like there's more and more fucked up shit going on, when in reality there's a lot less fucked up shit going on. We'll keep everybody grounded. I got called a fucking grifter the other day, and I'm like, how in the fuck am I grifting? If I am telling you what I genuinely believe, and I am doing the opposite of what the algorithm would reward, how in the fuck am I a grifter? But then again, it was a right-winger that said it, and right-wingers are morons. Talk about Sporty Ball. Is it the Super Bowl yet? Is it time for the Usher concert? Kansas City Chiefs fans' deaths, drugs, and freezing weather could have created a lethal condition. As their families wait for the toxicology results to shed more light on the mysterious deaths of 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans Experts have told Fox News Digital a mix of drugs and frigid weather could have dealt the trio a lethal blow. The bodies of Ricky Johnson, 38, Clayton McGee, 36, and David Harrington, 37, were discovered on January 9th, 2 days after they had gathered at friend Jordan Willis's home to watch the Chiefs play the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I thought they were at the Sporty Ball game that got postponed. Kansas City Police Department has told Fox Digital that no foul play is suspected, and the case is 100% not being investigated as a homicide. The men's families have accused Willis of playing an active role in the deaths, including allegations they were drugged. The families cite Willis's attorney changing narrative about the friend's final hours. His claims his client slept on the couch through much of the 48 hours that his friends were dead in his backyard, and his role as a brilliant scientist with a PhD working at a nonprofit developing immunizations. Oh, wow! Well, this has got conspiracy theories for the right wing coming out the yin-yang now, doesn't it? Experts who spoke to Fox News Digital, though, all posited that the deaths were most likely accidental and caused by recreational drug use gone horribly awry. If they all took alcohol, they would not collapse around the same time. People react differently to large doses of alcohol, metabolize it at different speeds. They react to it, but they don't react right away, and they're conscious enough to go indoors if they feel like they're going to pass out. It would be the type of drug that caused the person to be disoriented. They ruled out carbon monoxide because the men's bodies were found outside. Fentanyl-type drugs can cause disorientation and can cause a rapid sleep-like loss of consciousness. Fentanyl. These 4 people all took it together. The guy on the couch sleeps it off for a long time, whereas the 3 who went outside disoriented maybe didn't have on their coats because of the freezing weather. It could be a combination of the drug and hypothermia that caused their death. Death from an overdose of fentanyl or a fentanyl analog, versions of the drug with a similar but slightly different chemical structure, isn't immediate and can take about an hour. When a fentanyl overdose takes place, naloxone can prevent users from going deeper into coma after they lose consciousness. It isn't a sudden death, it's minutes. But hypothermia sets in when the body's internal temperature lowers to 95 degrees or lower. Although temperatures weren't particularly low on the evening of January 7th in Kansas City, hitting a low of around 29 degrees, the forensic pathologist Baden said a prolonged period in the snow and any weather under 32 degrees would be cold enough to kill a man. The families are upset and thinks that the dude killed his friends. He worked in immunizations. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing about this one again. Next, we're going to go to New Hampshire. You might find this footage disturbing. A cargo plane came crashing down in New Hampshire town.
You're looking at this twin-engine cargo plane crashing into Brian Croto's backyard around 7:30 this morning.
Okay, don't move, buddy. I had gotten up into the plane at one point to check to see if he was okay, see if we could get him out.
Was he talking to you?
He was mumbling. He was pretty pinned up against his controls, and the plane was kind of smushed around him.
In fact, Brian was the first to get to the pilot, who had called 911 from his own cockpit after the crash.
He was probably 70 feet from a residence, a single-family residence, right on where the lawn of this residence met the tree line of the woods. So it was very, very close.
The plane had 250 gallons of jet fuel on board, and the aircraft did not explode on impact.
Why there was no fire, I do not know that for a scientific fact, but I think it was, as we said several times today, the pilot's lucky day.
The plane had taken from Manchester Boston Airport a package delivery flight headed for Presque Isle, Maine. But shortly after takeoff, he was looking for a place to land near the airport and had limited contact with the tower.
Weekdays 1046, Boston approach, ident. Did you hear this?
It was miraculous that he survived the crash, coming down from that high, from the sky.
Back live now, those lights you see are environmental crews that are here to clean up that 250 gallons of jet fuel. The next big job will be to try to get that fuselage out of this neighborhood. But a very lucky day for many here.
It looked like it was feet away from a playground. I don't know if this is going to be fun or interesting or anything. I don't know. The headline struck me, gave me a giggle. Woman in Lake Tahoe was stuck in a gondola.
Investigation is underway at Heavenly
Stuck overnight in a gondola.
An investigation is underway at Heavenly Ski Resort after a snowboarder was trapped in one of its carriages for 15 hours. Yes, we are talking about the resort's ride. Monica Lasso hopped on at 4:58 p.m. Thursday for the descent down. But then the gondola stopped midair, leaving her stuck all alone on board. Lasso did not have her cell phone. Her yells did not attract the attention of workers below. And Lasso says she kept warm by rubbing her hands and feet together. Next morning at the opening time when the gondola began running again. Medics checked her out and they determined she was okay.
Wow. Going to Alamance County. Alamance County, is this Pennsylvania? This is North Carolina. Going to Alamance County, North Carolina, where a snowboarder in a boat. like she was in Venice. One of those little boat rides. School in North Carolina got creative, but had to stop their kids from making TikToks while they're at school.
Halaman's Burlington School says it removed bathroom mirrors from a middle school because of so many distracted students. Southern Middle School in Graham says too many students were leaving class to go film TikTok videos. WFMY News 2's Nixon Norman learned about efforts to keep attention in the classroom.
That's right, Chad. School leaders say they made this decision hoping it cuts down on in-school distractions and the amount of videos made in the bathrooms. These days, bathrooms aren't always used for obvious reasons.
Students were going to the bathroom for long periods of time and
You know, if we're talking about going to the bathroom, you gotta throw out that I would love to go to the bathroom in Dan Crenshaw's open aisle.
Students were going to the bathroom for long periods of time and making TikTok videos.
And it was happening a lot at Southern Middle School in Graham. The school says on average, students go to the restroom 3 to 4 times.
Clinically, good evening.
The number shot up to 7, 8, 9 times a day. They were using the mirrors to record videos. So the school removed the mirrors this week, and it's already making a difference.
Not as many visits to the bathroom, not staying as long, and students are held accountable. And then when there's accountability, you see a great difference.
Parents chimed in on social media. Mark said, "I have a better idea. No phones allowed at school, and you can put the mirrors back up." Melissa.
Well, here's the thing, though, is if you take their kids' phones away, what happens if they need to call 911 when there's a fucking school shooting because you won't do anything about the goddamn guns in this country? How are they gonna tell their families they love them when they're hiding from a fucking school shooter? Take their phones away. Fuck off.
So replied, "Phones aren't allowed to be out, but the kids don't follow the rules. If you can't listen, you can't learn."
Bobby wrote, "Let your kids not have phones. Mine are going to reach me in an emergency." The district is also taking an active approach to teaching students about what it calls digital citizenship.
We're trying to educate students like we all have cell phones now. We have to learn to use them. We have to learn when to put them down.
The district says it still has some adjustments to make, but that holding students accountable is the first step.
The district is also now using a digital hall pass system. It allows students to check in and out when leaving class, so staff knows where students are at all times for safety.
I gotta hear, like, well, no. You want to put because I was about to say you put a cell phone blocker, make them use the school's Wi-Fi, and then block like TikTok from the Wi-Fi. But once again, that goes back to like, let them get in touch with their parents. In the case of an emergency, it's unfortunate we live in a fucking country that's like that. Oh, I want to be to the bullshit part of the show. Talk about the music charts. Britney Spears' 2011 song "Selfish" overtakes Justin Timberlake's new single of the same name on iTunes. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. That's cool. Days after Timberlake dropped his new single, fans of Spears have thrown their support to her 13-year-old Femme Fatale track. The Consequence of Sound review of Justin Timberlake's song said it was a turd. Justin Timberlake's new single may be called "Selfish," but it still has to share the charts. Britney Spears' 2011 track "Selfish" has overtaken Timberlake's new lead single of the same name. Following the Thursday release of Timberlake's new single and music video, Spears fans rallied around her own song of the same name on social media, ultimately helping elevate it to the #1 spot on the iTunes charts on Friday. As of Saturday morning, the song is sitting at #2 on the iTunes top songs charts for digital downloads, with Timberlake's "Selfish" trailing behind at #4. Now, Britney Spears is currently #2 on the iTunes charts. You may be asking, who the fuck is #1 on the iTunes charts? Amazingly enough, it is right-wing commentator Ben Shapiro. Who is in a rap song with Tom McDonald. If you didn't see the meme of the day earlier, let me throw that up for you here. I thought I would. Inside you, there are two lone wolves. One has a structured settlement. The other needs cash now. I'm sorry, Snicks. It was very short. It was just about how Britney fans knocked Justin Timberlake down a peg on the iTunes charts. But then Britney Spears was knocked off of the iTunes charts by one Ben Shapiro and Tom McDonald. I have not heard the song yet. Facts by Tom McDonald featuring Ben Shapiro. They call me offensive, controversial. There's only two genders, boys and girls. They can't cancel my message. Oh, I should probably hit a content warning for this because this is gonna really suck. This dude sucks. Tom McDonald, also Canadian.
I'm the biggest independent rapper in the whole freaking world. Claim that I'm racist, yeah, alright. I'm not ashamed because I'm white. If every Caucasian's a bigot, I guess every Muslim's a terrorist. Every liberal is right. I don't want to talk to folks who don't get it. Go woke, go broke, no hope, it's pathetic. Pro-choice, pronouns, pro-love, you're progressive. But you ain't pro-gun, no one to protect it. Where the American flags at? Remember when people would hang those? They've been taken down, they all been replaced with BLM flags or a rainbow. This ain't rap, this ain't...
He sounds like a whiny little kid.
Money, cars, and clothes. We ain't selling drugs, we ain't gonna overdose. We ain't pushing guns, ain't promoting stripper poles. We won't turn your sons into thugs or your daughters into hoes. I don't care if I offend you. I was put here to upset you. You can cry and you can scream, you can riot in the streets. You defunded the police, now there's no one to protect you. I hope I offend you. I ask myself, what would Ben do?
What would Ben do?
Real facts, don't care how you feel, man. If you want my pronouns, I'm the man who don't respect.
Let's look at the stats, I've got the facts. My money like Lizzo, my pockets are fat. Homie, I'm epic, don't be a wap. Dog, it's a yarmulke, homie, no cap. Look at the graphs, look at my charts. You're blowing money on strippers and cars. You go into prison, I'm on television. Dog, no one knows who you are. Keep hating on me on the internet. My comment section all woke Karens. And I make racks off compound interest. Y'all live with your parents. Nikki, take some notes, I just did this for fun. All my people, download this, let's get a Billboard #1.
This ain't rap, this ain't money, cars and clothes. We ain't selling drugs, we ain't gonna overdose. We ain't pushing guns, ain't promoting stripper poles. We won't turn your sons into thugs or your daughters into hoes. I don't care if I offend you. I was put here to upset you. You can cry and you can scream, you can riot in the streets. You defunded the police, now there's no one to protect you. I hope I offend you.
He literally said rap music isn't real music. And yet here he is in a rap video. I'm pretty sure that the Ben Shapiro part is AI, right?
I ask myself, what would Ben do? Let's just keep it real facts. Don't care how you feel, man. If you want my pronouns, I'm the man who don't respect you. You mad, you mad, you mad. I guess it's cool to be the victim, well, I'ma be the man.
You know what a pronoun is. Pronoun is not your gender. Just throwing that out there. You said your pronoun is the man. You don't know what a pronoun is.
You sad, you sad, you sad. You just try to get attention being.
No, unfortunately, Tom McDonald is all too real.
You mad, you mad. You blame everybody else for every problem that you can. You sad, you sad, you sad. I will never say I'm sorry, I ain't taking nothing back. I don't care if I offend you. I was put here to upset you. You can cry and you can scream, you can riot in the streets. You defunded the police, now there's no one to protect you.
And like, let me throw this out there as well. It's a song called Facts, but it's an emotive argument that he's making. I don't care if I offend you. I am here to upset you. He's making an emotive argument. He wants to get to your emotions, not about facts. Don't blame the drugs, Nick. What did drugs ever do to you? How you gonna do that? Don't blame the drugs. I saw somebody share out a status that said I could never abuse substances. I love substances. And I'm like, yes, that's me. I love substances. But they can get a hold of you. They might treat you the way this cat is treating this old lady. It goes through a good right hook, didn't it? Said it was the Cat Fanciers Association or some shit. The Cat Fanciers. Or Financiers. Not Cat Fanciers. Financiers. She got some kind of like reindeer ears on. She's got reindeer bear ears. The baby didn't want to be touched. Poor kitty. They're probably like trying to like well damn, you're like trying to show it off like it's a piece of fucking, like you're like in a cow, a steer that you're like, what in the fuck are you doing to that cat? That's not how you lovingly hold a cat. What was she doing? Like she was gonna like, here, like look at its teeth and like open its mouth and shit. Why was she grabbing it around the neck like that? Of course the cat's gonna react like that. I trust the cat. Why is she grabbing it like that? It clearly did not like it. That's not the way you hold a cat. This is how you hold a cat. This is how you hold a cat. Aw. I pulled my headphones out. He is very unhappy about that. I don't need them. There's not even any sound coming through them. Why'd I even have them on in the first place? I mean, when I played videos, there's sound coming through them. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. Maynard was not impressed by that. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We will see you